Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh, so we stopped halfway down Gimel Hamad Beis. We're going to pick up on Gimel Hamad Beis. We're going to talk a little bit quickly today, at least quicker than usual. Says the Gemara, we've been discussing now when you have a Shinoi Kodesh, when you have a korban and you bring a shlamim l'shem another korban. That's Shinoi Kodesh. Shinoi Baalim is that you bring the shlamim l'shem shlamim, but you don't bring it for yourself. You bring it, or the Kohen, when he goes out and does the avodah, he does it l'shem somebody else who didn't bring the korban. That's Shinoi Baalim. So it says in Gemara, what's the kasha? Mi amarav chatas sheshachta l'shem chatas kishera l'shem ola psula. If I shachta chatas for a shem chatas, now that means that I had to bring a chatas for eating one thing, let's say chaylev, and then I bring the chatas for eating dam. So it's still kosher, even though, again, it wasn't the chatas that I set it aside for. I ended up bringing l'shem chatas. But if I bring a chatas l'shem ola, then it's going to be psula. Alma delav mina machrba, demina lo machrba. Again, it won't even work after the fact. Alma delav mina machrba. If something's not similar to it, i.e. l'shem ola, it's going to ruin it. Demina lo machrba. But if I bring a chatas l'shem, a different sin, then it is going to be okay. It's not going to ruin it. Rav says, if I bring a chatas for somebody who's chayiv a chatas is going to be pasol. And interestingly, if I bring a chatas and I have in mind somebody that's chayiv an ola, it's actually going to work. Alma debar mina machriba, delav mina lo machriba. So here it's the opposite. Over there, when I shechted a chatas for the shem chatas, I have to bring a chatas for dam, and I bring it, or for chaylev and I shechted for dam, then it's the same type of thing. It's going to work. But if I bring it la'ola, it's not going to work. But over here, when I bring it for the same thing, when I bring it for another person that's chayiv v'chatas, it's not going to work. And when I bring it for a person that's chayiv an ola, it is going to work. So which one is it? Says the Gemara, umishani. The Gemara answers, Hasam v'shacharo tal lechatas amar achmana varechatas hashem chatas nishrata hacha v'chiper alav ksiv Allah v'lo al chavero chavero dum yadidei shemechuyav kapara kemosa. He's saying it's all gzeros hakasavs. You're right, in Sfara they should be the same, but it says v'shachaso sal lechatas. You have to shach this for a chatas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were supposed to bring it for a chatas for chayla for eating fat, and you brought it for a chatas for eating dam. At the end of the day, if you brought it and shachted l'shem chatas, the gzeros hakasov, that is going to work. If you shechted l'shem ola, then it's not going to work. Remember, we said specifically by a chatas and by korban pesach, when you shech them for the wrong thing, it's not going to work. But over here, v'chiper alav, when we're talking about having a kapara, so the kapara is alav on the person that brings a korban. It needs to be a person that's similar to you. V'chiper alav ksiv alav v'lo achaver. It's only going to be for you. So for you, when you're supposed to bring a chatas for dam or for chaylev, you can bring it for dam. But it's only v'chiper alav. It's only going to be mechaper for you, not for somebody that did a sin like you, which is another person that needs a chatas. What's interesting is that it's going to go and say it's only excluding that case. But if another person did an ola, even though that's not alav, it's not excluded. It's dafka v'chiper alav. It's only going to work for you by a chatas, or for anybody else not by a chatas. But by a chatas or somebody else, it's not going to be v'chiper alav v'lo chavero, and therefore it won't work. Says the Gemara, Rav Chaviva Mari Shunoi Baalim Atoch Tocho Mishani. Rav Chaviva asked another kasha, but a different kasha, not from Shinoi Kodesh to Shinoi Baalim again. We're going to keep saying it to just make sure you understand what it means. Shinoi Kodesh means that you bring a chatas for something else. That's when you bring the korban for the sake of another korban. Shinoi Baalim means you bring the chatas for the sake of a chatas, but you bring it for another person. Don't forget that, because we're going to keep saying that. That's Shinoi Baalim. So now we ask another kasha. We have a kasha on Shinoi Baalim when you bring a korban and you have in mind somebody else who's not the owner, who didn't set it aside. Atoch Tocho, the case yesterday, the complicated case with the tanur, where you had the earthenware tanur and you had the avir, etc. We said if you shech the chatas for somebody else that's chayiv a chatas, it's pasol because of shinoi balim. But if it's somebody else that's chayiv an ola, it's kasher alma dimina machrba delav mina lo machrba. You see again that if you do something that's similar, it's going to ruin it. If you do something totally out of the box that's dissimilar, like the ola, it's not going to ruin it. It's not going to stop it. It's going to be kasher. But yesterday we said what? That if you go out and you have a kli inside of an oven, since the kli is dissimilar, we rejected it yesterday and said it's not so dissimilar, but let's just assume for now, since the kli is not the oven itself, therefore when it's not like the oven, what does it do? When it's not like the oven, it'll be machriv ba. it'll ruin the air travel from the sheretz into the thing. And as long as we said the top is outside of the oven, it'll stop. So on one hand, when you have something dissimilar, like you have a chatas and you shecht it, not for yourself, if you shecht it for somebody that's chayiv and ola, something that's dissimilar, it's not going to affect anything. And over here, when you have something dissimilar, when you have a utensil, a metal utensil, or earthenware utensil, which is dissimilar to the tanur, and it's dissimilar, so it goes ahead and it does stop. It makes a difference, and that's why, in that case, it prevents the tumah from getting into the thing. So which one is it? Says the Gemara, no. Umeshani arba tocho ksive, toch tocho, chad legufei v'chad legzera shava, chad tocho shalzeh v'shatoch v'lo tocho shalzeh, shalacher idach tocho v'lo tocho v'afilu klishetev matil. No. The Torah says, the Gemara says no. We see that mina is machriba, lav mina is lo machriba. If it's the same thing, if it's similar, then it ruins it. If it's not similar, then it's as if it's not there. Therefore, if you have a chatas and it's a shem ola, it's dissimilar, you ignore it, and it works. If you have something that's similar, a chatas, a shem, a different chatas, it's going for a different person that needs a chatas, is going to ruin it. So why over here in the case where it's dissimilar, if in fact it's dissimilar, i.e. the kli that's inside of the tanur is dissimilar to the tanur, so using that logic that something that's dissimilar should be ignored. If you take a chatas, the shem ola, it's ignored. So you should ignore this kli, and what should happen to the food inside of the kli? It should become tameh. Why don't you ignore it? It says a Gemara, gzeras hakasav. There's a special gzera that when you have this kli inside of the tanur, it's going to prevent the food from inside of the tanur of getting, it's going to prevent the food that's inside of this kli from getting pasul. It teaches that there are 4 different chidushim in this case of the tanur, and I'll just say them quickly outside. One chidush is the fact that airspace in general inside the tanur is going to make anything pasul. In general, airspace doesn't do anything. So over here, we're saying that when you have airspace, when you have a sheretz here, and you have the airspace of the entire tanur becomes a problem. The second thing is not only does airspace become a problem when there's a sheretz in the tanur, if you would hold a sheretz and just hang it in the tanur, the entire airspace would become a problem as well. The third chiddush is the fact that if you have a kli inside of the tanur, it could actually block the tumah from going into the ochel that's in there. And the fourth chiddush is that chad tocho velo toch tocho. Again, that it and the fourth chiddush is that it's only by a kli shetef and not by a navir, in the sense that this rule of a sheretz being metame the entire avir is only by a kli cheres, but if the tanur is made out of metal, it would not in fact be metame the entire avir. Those are 4 chidushim, but the bottom line is that it's a gzeras kasuv over there for everything that happens by the tanur. But in general, in achanami, if you have something that's dissimilar, you would ignore it, and it wasn't for the gzeras kasuv, then you would ignore this extra kli inside of the tanur, and in fact, the ochel inside would become tameh. But because you have a separate gzeras kasuv, we're going to say differently. Now we're going to spend the rest of the day talking about, we said on the first page, on Beis Amud Aleph, that things need to be lishma, and then we said that stam, and we had a whole discussion, by get stam will not work, by korbanos stam will work. But the Gemara wants to know, you still haven't proven to me that anything needs to be lishma. We took it for granted, but you haven't proven to me, you also gave me a pasuk that says that if you do it shelo lishma, then you have to continue neder nedava, you have to continue the entire process, but you still haven't given me a source why anything needs to be lishma. We're going to spend the whole day giving you 8 sources. What are the 8 sources? Well, there's 4 avodas. Shchita, Kabbalah, Holacha, Zrika. Well, that applies for both. We said that not only do you need Kodesh to be, right? We said Shinoi Kodesh, Shinoi Baalim. That means you have to have intention the entire time, Lishma, for each one of the steps that it's being done for the thing that it was originally set aside for. If it was set aside for a Chatas, it needs to be done. The Shchita needs to be for a Chatas, the Zrika, the Kabbalah, the Lacha. And also, the other 4 sources that we're going to have to bring are the fact that each one, even if you're bringing it for a Chatas, it needs to have L'Shem what? The original owner, the Baal. That it needs to be that it was for me. The entire Shechita was for me, the Zrika was for me, the Kabbalah and the Lacha. So that's 4 different things. Again, Shinoi Baalim is you have to have intention for each step that it's L'Shem, the same Baal that set it aside. And Shinoi Kodesh is that you have to have intention that it's for this specific Korban and not for a different Korban. So let's start with the 4 that are Shinoi Kodesh. That say that each step of the process needs to be specifically for the Korban that it was set aside for. Says the Gemara, Minalan Dibainan Zvicha Lishma. So the first one is, how do we know that the Shechita in general needs to be lishma? We said after the fact, b'di'evet, if it's not a chatas or not a pesach, it'll work, and you can still go ahead and finish the avoda. You can't be ola; you still have to owe him. You still owe God whatever you were supposed to bring, the chatas or the korban, whatever the shlamim. But at the end of the day, how do you know the chachila? The whole thing needs to be lishma. To Amar Kra, pasuk says, "Vim zevach shlamim korbano." It could have just said v'im shlamim korbano. What's v'im zevach shlamim korbano? Shetehei zvicha l'shem shlamim. That the zevach needs to be l'shem shlamim. When you shecht it needs to be l'shem the korban that you had set it aside. So all these are going to be psukim. V'dil nahainu shmayahu. Maybe the name of the korban is a zevach shlamim. Maybe it's actually called a zevach shlamim. Who said that you can make a diuk that the zevach, the zvicha, the shchita has to be l'shlamim? Maybe it's called a zevach shlamim. Says Gemara, it's not called a zevach shlamim because you see there are other psukim that call it a shlamim and don't call it a zevach shlamim. Dechtiv hamakriv as dam shlamim. Hamakriv, as we'll see, means the Kabbalah. When you say hakrava, you think it means shchita, it means Kabbalah. And hazorek is dam shlamim. What do you see clearly? It doesn't call it a zevach shlamim. It doesn't say zorek is dam zevach shlamim. Velo ksiv zevach, v'acha ksiv zevach, shmamina shetei zvicha l'shem shlamim. So again, it says in the pasuk v'im zevach shlamim korbano. When you shecht it needs to be l'shem shlamim. That's the first source. Second source is ashechan zvicha shar avodas minalim. Very nice. So you told me that the zvicha, when I shecht a korban, it needs to be l'shem what I had set aside the korban for originally. Let's say in this case a shlamim. But how do I know that when I do the Kabbalah, the holach, and the zrika, it needs to be l'shem the same korban? Says the Gemara, v'chitem aleilaf mizvicha. If you say we should learn it from the fact that the zvicha needs to be, the shchita needs to be l'shma, ma l'zvicha shekein nifsalo shelo l'shem ochlim b'pesach. No, the shchita has a chumrah in it that says that it's nifsala if you do it shalol l'shem ochlim pesach. Rashi explains that if you shecht a korban pesach and you have in mind somebody, you're shechting it for somebody who can't actually eat the korban pesach, who can't eat it because I said the korban pesach, it ruined it. If I do the zrika and I have in mind somebody that can't eat the korban, it doesn't ruin the zrika, the Kabbalah, the holacha. But if I shecht a korban pesach, specifically a korban pesach and specifically the shchita, if I shecht a korban pesach and I have in mind you, who I know, unfortunately, as a chol, as a zaken, can't eat the korban pesach, it ruins the entire shchita. So there's a chumrah by zvicha, there's a chumrah by korban pesach. Therefore, maybe in general, since we see that zvicha is more machmir, maybe in general, zvicha needs to be done lishma. But maybe the other three avodas don't have to be lishma. And if I do zrika, l'shem, a korban chatas, even though I'm bringing a shlamim, it won't actually ruin anything. Says the Gemara, El Amar Kra hamakriv es dam hashlamim. What's hamakriv? We said hamakriv is the Kabbalah. You shecht it, then you accept it. It's called hamakriv as the Kabbalah. Shetehei Kabbalah l'shem shlamim. Similarly, hamakriv es dam hashlamim. The karbana, the hakrava, i.e. the Kabbalah needs to be l'shem shlamim. V'lichta rachmana beKabbalah v'leila shchita mina. Now that you have a pasuk for Kabbalah, why don't we just say Kabbalah? And I'll learn zvicha from it. And I'll learn shchita from it. I couldn't learn anything from shchita because shchita has a chumrah. But maybe I could learn everything from Kabbalah. Mishum de'ika lemifrach, no. Kabbalah also has a chumrah. Mimale Kabbalah shekem psula bizar v'isha. Kabbalah cannot be done with a zar or an isha. Shchita can be done with a zar or an isha, seemingly. Definitely with a zar, maybe even with an isha. If you do shchita, we know that the guy who brings it can actually do the shchita. Why he would want to, maybe, okay, he has to have the thing, but he has to have the ability to do it. But a guy who brings it can do the shchita, not the Kohen. The Kohen can, but he doesn't have to. The Kabbalah needs to be done by a Kohen. Therefore, you see that Kabbalah is more machmir than Zvicha. So just because Kabbalah would need to be l'shem shamayim, or l'shem the korban, wouldn't necessarily mean that Zvicha needs to be l'shem korban as well. So now I have Zvicha that needs to be l'shem the korban, and I have Kabbalah needs to be l'shem korban. That's how many? 2. Good counting. Ashkechan shchita veKabbalah zrika minalan. How do I know that the zrika needs to be l'shem? Maybe I'll learn it from the fact that the shchita and the Kabbalah need to be lishma of the korban. Says the Gemara, no, because there's a chumrah by shchita. There is a chumrah that shchita and Kabbalah share with each other. That they need to be done in the tzafon. They need to be done in the north part of the thing. And the shchita and the Kabbalah, when you have the special chatas pnimios, so that's done by the Mizbeach HaChitzon, as opposed to the Zrika by the Chatos HaPnimios is not done by the Mizbeach HaChitzon, and therefore that's considered to be, again, a Kula. So there's a common denominator, which is a Chumrah by Shchita and Kabbalah, that first of all they have to be done in the northern part of the temple, and second of all that they apply even by Chatas Pnimios. We don't say the same by Zrika. Zrika doesn't have to be done by Tzafon, and Zrika doesn't always apply on the Zrika in general. Stam Zrika means on the outer Mizbeach. Zrika doesn't always apply by certain korbanos. Therefore you can't compare Shchita and Kabbalah. You can't say just because Shchita and Kabbalah need to be l'shem the korban, Zrika does as well. So how do you know Zrika needs to be l'shem the korban? Ela Makra hazorek es dam shlamim. Again, you're zorek the shlamim. Shetei Zrika l'shem shlamim. So Zrika needs to be l'shem shlamim. So now I know 3, that the Shchita, the Kabbalah, and the Zrika need to be l'shem the korban. What are we missing? the holacha, walking it after you catch it in the bowl, walking it to the mizbeach, why does that have to be l'shem the korban? Maybe it doesn't, and maybe if I don't have in mind the right korban, it'll still work. Says the Gemara, v'lichza v'lichta rachmana bezrika v'leilaf mina. So now that we know zrika, why don't we just write it by zrika 1 second, and then we'll learn everything else from zrika, because there's also a chumra by zrika, mishum deka lemifrach, mal zrika sheken chayav Allah zar misa. Zrika is the only one, and again, even if we don't get all the different, we have to get the overall concepts. Zrika is the only one that if it's done by a non-Kohen, you're going to get kares. The other things, shchita, we said, can be done by a non-Kohen, and the Kabbalah can actually, it's not supposed to be done by a non-Kohen, but if a non-Kohen does the Kabbalah, there's no kares. It's only zrika, the throwing of the dam on the mizbech, that if it's done by a non-Kohen, it's actually going to be chayiv kares. Therefore, since zrika is more machmir, I can learn from zrika to the other one. So now we got 3. Shchita, Kabbalah, zrika. Ashachan kulu holacha minal. And how do we know that the holacha needs to be lishma? V'chite malelaf mikulu, malakulu sheken avoda she'efshar lebatla, tomar balacha she'efshar lebatla. Maybe you should say what? That once we know the other 3, so then for sure halacha needs to be lishma as well. We'll say no. Maybe halacha doesn't need to be lishma because halacha is on a lower level than the other 3. Why? The other 3 need to be done for every single korban. Shchita, Kabbalah, and zrika need to be done for every korban. Halacha doesn't have to be done for every korban. How not? Because what happens if you shecht it? Somebody was pointing out yesterday. What happens if you shecht it next to the mizbeach? If you shecht it next to the mizbeach, you could do the shchita, the Kabbalah, and you could throw it directly on the mizbeach. You don't have to walk to the mizbeach. There are certain cases where you could shecht it right to the mizbeach. So since there's a way to get around halacha, maybe halacha is on a lower level. If halacha is on a lower level, maybe it does not need to be done lishma. Says the Gemara, so why does halacha need to be done lishma? Ela amar kra v'hikriv es hakol hamizbecha. Because it says v'hikriv es hakol hamizbecha. V'amar mar zu holeches evarim lekeves. The word v'hikriv over here means halacha, bring it to the keves. And therefore what? V'tanya, what did we say on top? Hamakriv es dam hashemim. What did we say the word hamakriv is? Hamakriv is the Kabbalah. V'tanya v'hikrivu zu Kabbalah sadam. V'afik rachmana belashon halacha l'meimra d'halacha lo tifka miklal Kabbalah. So what do we say? The Torah uses the same word for Kabbalah that it does for halacha. Just like it uses for Kabbalah hamakriv, it uses for halacha as well, v'hamakriv or v'hikriv. Since it uses the same word, now I have a gzera shava between the two. Once I know that the what? That the Kabbalah needs to be l'shem the korban, the halacha needs to be l'shem the korban as well. So bottom line is I have a source now for all 4 that they need to be l'shma. 3 of them are psukim, zrika, Kabbalah, and shchita. And the halacha we learn from Gzeirat Shavra from the Kabbalah, makriv, to say that needs to be done l'shma as well. Yes?
In terms of being pasul on the Korban Pesach, even one person in the Kabbalah will pasul it, or as long as the other people...
In terms of what, though? In terms of the thought for what? For which part of the process? But only one person is bringing the korban. So what are you talking? We're only talking about one.
There's a whole chabura that's part.
That's part of what? Part of the achila. But there's only one person that's bringing the korban.
Oh, I see. So
it's only that one person who can ruin it. Correct. It's only the avodas that we're talking about that are going to ruin it. If the guy has intention to eat it l'shem something else, he doesn't necessarily ruin it l'shem achila. Right. Says the Gemara. So those are all again achatas l'shem something else. Now, what about when you bring the chatas l'shem chatas, but you bring it not for yourself, you bring it intention for somebody else. That's shinoi ba'alav. Says the Gemara, now we got to go through the other 4 sources. Shinoi ba'alav ashkechan, shinoi kodesh, shinoi ba'alav minalan, amar of pinchas brei de Rav Ami, amar kra, ubisar zevach toda shlamav. The besar of the zevach toda shlamav. Shetehei zvicha l'shem toda. The zvicha needs to be l'shem toda, and this is what? Imeino inyan l'shinoi kodesh, and nafkal amayasam, tenei inyan l'shinoi ba'alim. So when it says ubisar zevach toda shlamav, what should it have said? It should have said ubisar toda shlamav. The basar of the toda of the shlamav. What does it say? Besar zevach toda shlamav. What's the extra zevach there? The extra zevach there is to teach me that it needs to be zvicha l'shem toda shlamav. Well, we don't need that to tell me by the Shinoi Kodesh that when you shecht a korban chatas, it needs to be l'shem korban chatas and not l'shem shlamim. We already know that. So if it's not going to be used to tell me that when you do the korban and you shecht the korban, it needs to be l'shem that korban, then I can use it what? To tell me that when you shecht the korban, it needs to be l'shem that person. Says the Gemara, v'hai lahachi udasa. Good try, but this pasuk is actually used for something else. Hamibayelech l'chedetanu besar zevach toda shlama v'avachanin omer mishum Rabbi Eliezer ba'al lamed. What's it teaching me? Toda sheshachta l'shem shlamim kshera, shlamim sheshachta l'shem toda psula. In the Mishnah, you told me that only when you shecht a chatas and a korban pesach shelo lishma, it's going to be a problem and it's going to be pasul. You can't do any more of the avoda. This pasuk is adding a 3rd category. That if you take a toda and you shecht it l'shem shlamim, you weren't chayav, or you weren't yotzei your toda, but you could still kshera to finish the service. However, shlamim sheshachtan l'shem toda, if you have a shlamim and you have in mind a korban toda, it ruins the entire process. So this pasuk's to add toda to the list, that if you take a shlamim and shachta l'shem toda, it's going to be a problem. That's why it says toda shlamav, the toda has to be, or can be shachta l'shem, again, not l'chavchila, but if it's shachta l'shem shlamim, it's going to work after the fact b'diavad. It won't be yotzei your chiyuv, but it'll at least be kosher to finish the avoda. But a shlamim sheshat on the shem toda, it's psula. I'm not sure. Ma hefresh ben zelazeh. What's the difference? Toda kriya shlamim ve'in shlamim kriya toda. Because you see that it's toda shlamav. Toda is called a shlamim. A shlamim is not called a toda. And therefore, if you bring a shlamim l'shem toda, it's going to be pasuk. But if you needed to learn that, then I no longer have the pasuk to teach me what? Zevach toda shlamav. I don't have the extra pasuk here, the limud. If I don't have the limud to teach me that you have to have lishma, then I can't say, well, lishma l'shem kodesh, and now I change it to l'shem balam, and I'm stuck, and I still have no proof that the zvicha has to be done l'shem balav. Sending the Gemara, anan mi zevach ke'amrinan. No, what is wrong with you? Look at the pasuk. Ubesar zevach toda shlamav. You're learning that the Toda needs to be like the Shlamim, not like the Toda. That's fine. Learn that from the last two words. Toda Shlamav. The word Zevach is still extra. So from the word Zevach, I learned the word Zevach teaches me that Zevach Toda Shlamav. The Zvicha needs to be L'Shem Toda, L'Shem Shlamav. If I don't need it to tell me that the Shchita needs to be L'Shem, the same Korban, because I already know that from another Pasuk. From the Pasuk on top, Vim Zevach Shlamim Korban. No, I can learn it that it needs to be L'Shem, the same Baal. We still have a kasha because we're still learning something else on that Pasuk. Chatas ve'ashan minayin. We know from this pasuk, near this pasuk, it says at the end of the pasuk, "Ubezar zevach toda shlamav biyom korbano yeyachel." Again, these are a lot of yisodos. That when you have the korban, you can eat it that day and that night. And the next morning it becomes noser. That's by a toda and a shlamim. The extra word, so the pasuk says, ubesar zevach toda shlamav. The extra word zevach, it's not meant to say that the zvicha needs to be lishma. The extra word zevach teaches me that just like a korban toda and a korban shlamim, you can only eat that day and the following night. So too, a chatas and asham, you can only eat that day and the following night. But once I'm making that limit, I don't have the extra word zevach, and therefore I don't have anything to tell me that it needs to be l'shem balim. Says the Gemara, Talmud lomar zevach imkein nichtov krav vasar toda shlama zevach, my zevach, shma mina tarte. Says the Gemara, no, I could still learn it. Because what are you telling me now? You're telling me I'm learning a lot of things from this pasuk. Vim zevach, if I test you, besar zevach toda shlama, what do we learn from that pasuk? First of all, we learn that it's only going to be good if what? If I shecht a toda l'shem shlamim and not a shlamim l'shem toda. That's the first thing we learn. The second thing we learn is that all of the korbanos, toda, shlamim, achatas, and asham, all have that night, that day, and the night, and then it's done. Says the Gemara, that's fine. And then I'm stuck because I don't have anything to learn Zevach. You're right, but I can learn something else from Zevach. Because if it was just teaching me that you have, just like by a Toda and a Shlamim, you can also only eat the Chatas and Asham that day and the night, where should it have put the extra word Zevach? It should have put it at the end of the Pasuk, when it was talking about Biyom Yeyachel. What should it have said? It should have said, Ubesar toda shlamav biyom korbano yeyachel, or besar toda shlamav zevach biyom korbano yeyachel. It should have put the extra word zevach closer to the word yeyachel if it's coming to teach us about the eating. The fact that it puts it all the way in the beginning of the pasuk teaches me that I can learn not only this idea of eating from this extra word zevach, I can also learn this idea of zevach toda shlamav, of being zvicha needs to be lishma. Once I know the zvicha needs to be lishma, but I already know that the chatas needs to be shechted l'shem chatas, I can learn that the zvicha needs to be lishma for the baal as well. Therefore, we got one out of these four. Now I know that the zvicha needs to be done l'shem baalin. Says the Gemara, Ashichan zvicha. You have a question?
Yeah. So maybe because it's the beginning of the pasuk, it shouldn't be teaching that it's the first thing about the time, that it has to be
right. So the Gemara is saying in a chanami, but the Gemara is learning that no, it is teaching both. It's teaching the fact that zevach comes at all, and the fact that zevach is not coming at the end. So it's teaching both. Right. Says the Gemara, Ashichan zvicha shar avodas minan. So now we got 5 out of 8. Now we know again all of the Shinoi Kodeshes. We already know those 4. Now we know that the Zvicha needs to be l'shem the Baal who brought it. How do I know the other 3? How do I know that the Kabbalah, the Holacha, and the Zrika need to be l'shem this Baal who brought the Korban? And again, who's doing the Kabbalah, the Zrika, and the Holacha? The Kohen. So how do you know the Kohen has to have in mind the Baal that brought it to him and not somebody else? Says the Gemara, I can't learn it from Zvicha because we said Zvicha has a chumrah that if you shech the korban pesach for somebody that can't eat it, it's not going to work. Nemar Zvicha b'shinoi kodesh, nemar Zvicha b'shinoi balim. Ma Zvicha amura b'shinoi kodesh l'chalakta ben Zvicha l'sharvodes. Av Zvicha amura b'shinoi balim l'tichala ben Zvicha l'sharvodes. So Gemara says I have an easy solution. You already know from all the psukim, you already know the four things by what? You know the four things by Shinoi Kodesh. So now I know only one, Zvicha, that it needs to be L'Shem the Baal. But once I see over there after the fact that what? That just like Zvicha, the Chatas needs to be brought L'Chatas, and then I see that the other three follow along from different psukim. So now I can assume here that if the Zvicha needs to be L'Shem Ba'alav, I can assume by definition that what? That the other three need to be done L'Shma as well. Says the Gemara, a nice try, but not going to work. Because we clearly see that there are other differences between Shinoi Kodesh and Shinoi Ba'alav, and therefore once you have certain chumras by Shinoi Kodesh that don't apply to Shinoi Ba'alav, you're going to go ahead and you're not going to be able to learn anything from Shinoi Kodesh to Shinoi Ba'alav. What are the chumras? So the Gemara originally suggests 4 chumras, and then it rejects them and suggests only 2, but at the end of the day, it still leaves 2 chumras by Shinoi Kodesh that don't apply to Shinoi Ba'alav, and therefore, again, we're going to have to prove through psukim the other 3 things need to be done l'shma. So what are the 4 that it originally thinks? Ikal mifrach. No, there's 4 differences. My l'shinoi kodesh came psula begufa. It's possible beguf. We'll see what that means in a second. V'yeshno ba'arba avodos. V'yeshno lachar misa, v'yeshno b'tzibor kibiyach. Let's look at the last 3, and the last one we'll do on the top of the next page. What does it mean, v'yeshno ba'arba avodos? Rashi explains that when it comes to me doing a korban chatas l'shem chatas, so I can ruin it at any point of the process. If I have in mind that when I shecht it, I'm shechting it al l'shem chatas, or when I do the Kabbalah or the halacha or all these things, we said all these things have to be done l'shma, and I can actually ruin it if I do a chatas or a korban pesach shalol l'shem, the right thing. I can ruin it at any step. Says Rashi that when it comes to shinoi balim, having intention for the wrong baal, you actually only ruin it with one step. What's the most important step when it comes to shinoi balim? What's the most important step when you bring a korban as a kapara? Zrika. The zrika goes ahead and gets me the kapara. So it's only if I have intention during the zrika to do it that it's going to ruin it. Now, be careful, because I just said only during the zrika. It's not 100% true. It's not only during the zrika. If I have intent at any point during the process, I need to have lishma, as we're proving now. We just proved that the zvicha needs to be l'shem baal. But as Rashi points out, it's only going to passel it if the zvicha, when I do the zvicha, it's not that I shechted it l'shem you and not l'shem me. It's that when I shechted it, I thought in my mind that the zrika, which will come later, will be done l'shem you. So it's not, each part needs to be lishma, but the point is that the only thing that will ruin it is if I don't have the right intention for the zrika at any point of the process. Not just when I'm actually doing the zrika. If I shecht it and I have this shchita is for moish, it's not going to ruin it. If I have in mind this shchita is so that I could later do zrika for moish, that's going to ruin it. So as opposed to the case of the Shinoi Kodesh, if at any point during the Shechita I say I'm shechting it, l'shem, something else, it's going to ruin it maybe. Over here, if I shecht it, l'shem another person, I don't ruin it unless I shecht it, l'shem, zrika of the other person. That's the difference between the two of them. Therefore, you can't necessarily learn from Shinoi Kodesh to Shinoi Balam. What's another difference? Yeshno la'achar misa. We're going to reject this one in a second. But at this point, the Gemara is assuming that there's a difference between the two of them. That if somebody has a korban set aside and he dies, what happens to that korban? The Yoresh gets that korban. Now, the Yoresh can't go ahead and take that chatas and shecht it l'shem ola. If he does, he passes it. But if he shechts it l'shem another person, that'll work, the Gemara assumes. Why? Because the guy is dead anyway. So what's the difference if I'm not doing it for him? Once I'm not doing it for him, I can do it for whoever I want. That's another suggestion. And the third and the fourth suggestion, again, we only explained the second two. The fourth suggestion is that we know that by Shinoi Kodesh, you can still have it tzibor. By Shinoi Balav, there's no tzibor. That means if you have a korban yachid, then both of them apply. But if you have a korban tzibor for the entire congregation, then it could still be a problem of having intent the wrong korban. But there's no such thing as having intent the wrong baal by a korban tzibor, because there is no baal by a korban tzibor. So those are the four differences between Shinoi Kodesh and Shinoi Baal. Says the Gemara, "Ve'afal gav detarti lav dafka, tarti miyadafka." 1 second. Let's just step back for a second. You're actually wrong. 2 of them are legitimate points. 2 of them are not legitimate points. Again, it's not going to affect the bottom line, because as long as you have even one legitimate point that there's a difference between Shinoi Kodesh and Shinoi Ba'alav, you're going to have to say I can't learn Zvicha from then. Says the Gemara, what are the two legitimate points? Maishna Shinoi Ba'alam delo have psulo begufo machshava ba'alma Shinoi Kodesh nami machshava ba'alma hu ela kevan da'achshava pasach nami kevan da'achshava pasach. This seems to go against what we had said earlier in the Gemara. The Gemara seems to be saying now that by both Shinoi Kodesh and by Shinoi Ba'alim, machshava will actually work. So there's not a difference between the two of them. That if at any point of the process I don't actually just say with my mind. If you remember, we spoke about Beis and making Gzera not to say anything. But now it seems to be saying that if I even have the wrong intention, whether it's by Shinoi Kodesh or by Shinoi Baal, if you have the wrong intention at any point, even with your mind, it's going to be a problem. So that's one similarity between the two of them. The other thing that's not really a difference between the two of them is Rav Pinchas Brei Rav Mar, Rav Meri Damar Yesh Shinoi Baalim La'achar Misa. He also says that no, after the guy dies, you're still going to apostle it if you have the wrong person in mind. Because what happens when the guy dies? It's not that it's nobody's korban. It gets passed on to who? To the heir. So when he brings it now, not l'shem himself, he's ruining it with Shinoi Baalim. So those two things are the same by Shinoi Kodesh and Shinoi Baalim. But at the end of the day, says the Gemara, Tarti miha ikka lemifrach. There's still two differences between Shinoi Baalim and Shinoi Baal. Again, what did we try to prove? We tried to say that just like by Shinoi of the Korban, Shinoi Kodesh, what happens? Just like Zrika needs to be L'Shem Shamayim, and now we said the other three do as well. So now that we've proven from the Pasuk, what did we prove? We proved from the Pasuk of what? We prove from the pasuk of Vasar Zevach Toda Shlamav that the Zvicha needs to be L'Shem Baal as well. We can assume by definition that just like by Shinoi Kodesh, all four need to be L'Shem Shamayim, so too over here, by the Baal, all four need to be L'Shem Baal. The Gemara says you can't make that comparison. Shinoi Baal and Shinoi Kodesh are still different in two ways. First of all, we said again that Shinoi Kodesh applies. It could be a problem even by a Korban Tzibor, which can't be a problem by Shinoi Baal. There's no such thing as having the wrong intent for the wrong Baal by a Korban Tzibor. There is no Baal. And the second thing is that Yeshno Be'arba Avodos, that the Shinoi of the Shinoi Kodesh applies by all four. If I have the wrong intent during any four, it's going to be a problem. And over here, it's only going to be if I have the wrong intent for the Zrika and not for anything else. So says the Gemara, what are we going to do? Now we're stuck. Ela Amar Rav Ashi, we need to prove the other three still. Right? We have Zvicha needs to be done L'Shem the Baal. How do I know the other three now? So now Rav Ashi comes along and says, I'll give you the other one. Here's another one of the remaining three. Amar Kra, V'nirtza lo l'chaper alav, v'lo al chavero. What's v'nirtza lo l'chaper alav? L'chaper alav, Rashi says, is the Zrika. That's the one that gives the kapara. So it needs to be l'chaper alav. You need to have in mind specifically that I'm doing the Zrika for myself and not for somebody else. So now again, I know that the Shechita needs to be done specifically for me because Ubisar Zevach Toda Shlamav. These are all based on Psukim. How do I know that the Zrika needs to be done for myself? Because it says, V'nir tzalo l'chaper alav. Says the Gemara in a second, 1 second. What does that mean the Zrika needs to be done L'Shem Ba'alav? We need that pasuk for something else. V'halahachi hudasa. Hamibayle l'chidetanya. What is this pasuk? V'nir tzalo l'chaper alav. It doesn't tell me that the Zrika needs to be done L'Shem of the Baal. What does it teach me? Rabbi Shimon Omer, et sha'alav chayav b'achriyiso, et she'eno alav eno chayav b'achriyiso. No, it teaches me something else. It teaches me that if I go ahead and I take a neder, and I say, Harei alai ola. If I say, Harei alai ola, and I set aside an ola, and something happens to the ola, I need to replace the ola. But if I say Harei ze ola, that's a nedava, and I say this is an ola, and something happens to the ola, I don't need to replace it. It's specifically this one, and if it gets stolen or lost, it's not my problem. But if I say Harei alai ola, then I have to replace it. That's what we learned from V'nirtza lo l'chaper alav. That if you say alai alav, then I have to replace it. But if I don't say Harei neder alai, I just say Harei zu ola, I don't have to replace it. But if I'm using that to teach me, if that's what the pasuk teaches me, then the pasuk doesn't teach me that the Zrika needs to be done L'Shem Baal. Says Gemara, Amar Yitzchak bar Avdimi, my taima. What's the reason? Kevan de Amar alai. Once I say Harei alai ola, kimandeton le'akat feidami. It's as if I took it on my own shoulders, and therefore, if something happens to it and it gets lost, I need to replace it. Rav Ashi Amar mi v'nirtza lo l'chaper kamer. Rav Ashi says, no, I agree with you. That's true, but I could still make the diuk of v'nirtza lo l'chaper alav. That means yes, we can learn both things. I can learn the fact that first of all, if I say Harei alai ola, I need to replace it. If I don't say Harei alai ola, I don't need to replace it. But I can also learn v'nirtza lo l'chaper alav that the Zrika needs to be specifically Allah for me, and if I do the Zrika not for me, it's going to ruin it. So now we have the second source. Now we know that the Shechita needs to be done L'Shem Baal, from the pasuk of Besar Zevach Toda Shlamav, and I know that the Zrika needs to be done L'Shem Ba'alav, and if it's not, it's going to ruin it. From what? That's from V'nir Tzalo L'Chaper Alav. Says the Gemara, Ashechan Zviko Zrika Kabbalah Minalan. So how do you know that the Kabbalah needs to be done L'Shem the Baal? Says the Gemara, V'chitei Maleilaf Mizviko Zrika. Maybe I can learn from the Zvika and Zricha, which I know need to be done L'Shem Baal. Mal Zviko Zrika Shekein Avoda Shchavna Le'a Bachut. You can't compare Zvicha and Zricha to the Kabbalah, because the Kabbalah is more mekil. I know that I'm chayav kares if I do the if I do the shchita or the zricha outside of the Beis Hamikdash. But if I do the Kabbalah outside, if I do a shechting and then I'm going to be chayav kares. But the actual Kabbalah, I'm not chayav for the Kabbalah outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Elam, again, if somebody else does a zrika, he's going to be chayav. But if I do the Kabbalah, I'm not chayav. So maybe the Kabbalah is going to be on a lower level, and therefore Kabbalah maybe doesn't need to be done l'shma. How do I know that Kabbalah needs to be done l'shma, l'shem the Baal? Elam, Ravashi, Asya me el Nazir. We learn from the el Nazir. The ayil needs to be done zevach shlamim. Shetehei asiyaso l'shem shlamim. The word yaseh is a very general word. What does the word yaseh here mean? All four avodas. That all four avodas need to be done l'shem shlamim. It's interesting, if you have this pasuk, you can get rid of the other two psukim by shchita and by zrika. This pasuk seems to include all four avodas. All four avodas need to be yaseh. All four avodas need to be done zevach shlamim l'shem shlamim ayi what? V'im eino inin l'shinoi kodesh shenafkalei mihasam tenei win l'shinoi balam. We don't need to know that things need to be done l'shem the actual kodesh, l'shem the korban. We already know that from the other four psukim. But now I have one pasuk that'll cover everything. V'asa ayil yaseh zevach shlamim. The ayil needs to be done l'shem the shlamim. I don't need to know that it needs to be done l'shem shlamim. I already know that. Therefore, I can assume that it needs to be done l'shem the Baal, all four of the avodas. Says the Gemara, not so quick. Amar le Ravacha barabba l'Rava ema ya'aseh klal zevach prat. You're right. If it would have just said ve'esa'ayil ya'aseh shlamim, perfect. All four avodas need to be done l'shem shlamim. You don't need to teach me l'shem shlamim. Therefore, I can learn it that it needs to be l'shem the Baal. However, the problem is that the word zevach comes and does a prat. Yaseh is in general, and what's the word zevach? It's a prat for shchita. What happens when you have a klalu prat? Klalu prat eina tadan ella ke'ena prat. So this will be another source for zvicha needing to be done l'shma, but I don't need a source for zvicha being done l'shma. I already have that the zvicha needs to be done l'shem ba'alim from v'yet zevach besar toda shlamav. Klalu prat ein b'chal ela mashe b'prat zvicha in midi achrina lo. Says the Gemara, no. Ikasiv yaseh shlamim zevach. If it would have said v'yes ha'ayil yaseh shlamim zevach kidika amart, then it would be a klal and then a prat. Hasha dechsiv yaseh zevach shlamim havale klal she'eno male. It's a klal she'eno male. It's not a klal and then a prat. It's like a klal that's not a full klal. V'chol klal she'eno male ein danin oso b'klalu prat. It's a klal. This is an interesting, complicated idea, but it's saying that it's not a specific klalu prat. It's a klal without the prat. It's like a klal that has a little bit of a chisaron to it. A klal with a little bit of a chisaron, you could still learn to everything. So again, v'yasa'ayil yaseh zevach shlamim. The zevach, again, is not considered to be a prat over here. We don't consider it to be a prat because it should have said v'yasa'ayil yaseh shlamim zevach. The fact that it puts the word zevach there, we can ignore the word zevach. Therefore, what do you have? Yasa'ayil yaseh shlamim. You have a klal that it has to be shlamim. Any of the asiyah, any of the four things need to be done l'shem the thing, need to be done l'shem the korban, but we don't need to know it has to be done l'shem korban. We already know that, therefore you can learn any of the four need to be done l'shem what? L'shem the Baal. And again, we don't really need the other two psukim. Ravina Amar, Ravina says you don't even have to say that it's a klal she'eno male, it's not a full klal. La'olam danin v'la Hashem chazaru klal. No, you can say that esa'ayil yaseh is klal. Zevach is a prat. But it then says la Hashem, which is a klal. What's the din by klalu pratu klal? You have the klal and a prat, a specific, and then a klal. So you take the klal and you minimize it a little bit with the prat, but then you can take the klal, the last klal says, to extend it to everything. So over here as well, la'olam danin v'lashem chazaru klal amle ravachim idiftu ravina v'halo dami klala kama l'klala basra. The only problem is that the klal in the beginning of Yaseh is not the same as the klal of Hashem. The klal of Yaseh says that the four avodos need to be done l'shma. What's la Hashem? La Hashem includes other things that are not just the avodas. What else is done la Hashem? Says the Gemara, Klala Kama Marba Siyos Vesulo, just the 4 avodos. Klala Basra, this last one, La Hashem, is Kol Hashem. That includes Vafilu Shvicha Shirayim. We know that after you have the blood that's sprinkled, you pour the leftover blood on the Mizbeach. V'Aktaras Emorim, we know that in it's not one of the 4 avodas, but after you finish, you burn the leftover bones. So it's a Klal Uprado Klal. It's not a real Klal Uprado Klal, because the Klal in the beginning and the Klal in the end are different. Says the Gemara, no, Hatana de Bebi Shmal, Beklali Uprote, Darish Kihai Gavna. They say that this type of Klal Uprado Klal is going to be fine also. Klal Uprado Klal, Iata Dan Elakena Prad, Ma Prad Mefurish Avoda Beinan Lishman, Af Kol Avoda Beinan Lishman. That's a new thing. So first, Kihai Gavna, Klal Uprado, fine, Kihai Gavna. So again, it comes out. What do you have now? You have a pasuk that says, Vesa'ayil Yaseh Zevach Shlamim Lashem. Vesa'ayil Yaseh is a Klal. Zevach, which is Shchita, is a Prat. Shlamim Lashem is a klal. Klal upradu klal, you can learn for the entire klal. Therefore, I can learn Yaseh to say that the 4 avodos need to be L'shem Shlamim. Says the Gemara, not so quick. Good try, but not so quick. Because what's the other rule by klal upradu klal? It's not just that you take it and you can learn everything to the klal. That's a klal. Klal upradu klal means that the prat goes ahead and minimizes the klal, and only the minimization, if that's a real word, can go ahead and go out to the klal. What do you say over here when you say the prat? What's the prat? The prat is the shchita. So there's something about the klal, which then applies specifically by shchita, which then applies to everything else. Says the Gemara, klal upradu klal iyatadan elakena prat, maha prat mefurash avoda uba'ina lishman. What zvicha? Zvicha is an avoda, and it needs to be done lishman. Av kol avoda va'ina lishman. So the Gemara says, just like the zvicha needs to be done lishman, which we know from what? Ubesar zevach toda shlamav. We can learn from the prat that anything else needs to be done, anything else has to be done lishman. Now when we have the klal of Yaseh for all of the other avodos, you can say it needs to be like the prat of zevach, and it needs to be done lishma. The Gemara says, good try. However, im mahaprat mefurash avoda v'chayavan aleh b'chutz, av kol avoda v'chayavan aleh b'chutz. You should only be able to make that klal that it needs to be done lishman for things that are exactly like the prat. What's the prat? Zvicha. What's the din by shchita? It can't be done by chutz. Therefore, you shouldn't say that all things need to be done lishma. Only things that are exactly like shchita, i.e. that if they're done b'chutz, they're going to be a problem, only those things need to be done lishma. What's that? What else can't be done b'chutz besides for shchita? What did we say? Zrika. Shchita zrika in kabbalah v'alachalo. So after all is said and done, when you have this pasuk of Yaseh, Yasa'ayil Yaseh, Zevach Shlamim Lashem, you have a klal upradu klal. I understand you want to learn like Zevach Shchita, and you want to learn that anything that's like Shchita needs to be done lishma. But the only thing that's like shchita in this sense is what? Is zrika. Just like shchita can't be done by chutz, zrika can't be done by chutz either. So you've proven to me that shchita and zrika need to be done what? Shchita and zrika need to be done what? Need to be done lishman. Okay, it doesn't help me. We already told me that shchita and zrika need to be done lishman. We have psukim for those already. Says the Gemara, no. Inami maha prad mefurash davar haton safon v'yeshna bechatos apnimios af kol haton safon v'yeshna bechatos apnimios shchita v'kabala in zrika lo. Says the Gemara, no. But there's another factor that you have to take into account. There's another thing by shchita, and that is, we said the shchita needs to be done in the north, and the shchita will always apply even by chatas pnimios. That's not true by zrika, but that's true by Kabbalah as well. We said that Kabbalah has this. So again, what we're basically saying in essence is that there are certain things of zrika that are similar to shchita, and there are certain things of Kabbalah that are similar to shchita. And what did we say? We said Kabbalah and holacha are one and the same. So now again, we have this pasuk that says, we know that zrika is going to be done lishma. Zrika needs to be done lishma from, we said, ubesar zevach toda shlamav. Then we have this pasuk of klal upradu klal, but says ve'es ha'ayil yaseh, which is a klal. Zevach, which is shchita, is a prat. La Hashem is a klal. Klal upradu klal, you can learn to everything else. Now again, we have to learn everything else that's like zvicha. Well, we're saying in essence, everything's like zvicha, because everything has a common denominator to zvicha. What's the common denominator between shchita and Kabbalah and holacha? That they all are done even by achatas pnimios, and they're all done b'tzafon. What's the common denominator between shchita and zrika? That they can't be done b'chutz. Therefore, l'maisa, since they're all like zevach, you can say that just like zevach needs to be done l'shem l'baal, so too all of them need to be done l'shem baal. If you're a little bit confused and you think it's hard, it is hard. Shchita v'kabbalah in, zrika lo. Ikalamei mahachi v'ikalamei mahachi, shkulan hein v'yavo shneim, lishnachrina v'chada v'chada teiku b'mielsa. So again, since each one has a similar aspect to the shchita, you can learn each one and compare it to shchita and say, just like shchita needs to be done lishma, everything else needs to be done lishma as well. You could say Zrika is learned from Ravashi, etc. The long bar is going to end, and we're just going to continue here for another 2 minutes. Ashkechan ayil nazir shar shlamim minalan. That's very nice, but this whole basis, again, Zrika, the shchita we know from elsewhere that it needs to be done l'shem baal. But this whole limud of klal u'prad u'klal is learned from a very specific case of what? Of the ayil of a nazir. So maybe specifically by the ayil of a nazir, just like shchita always needs to be done lishma, maybe specifically by the ayil of a nazir, the kabbalah, the halacha, and the zrika need to be done lishma, l'shem baal. But maybe by all other cases, all other karbanos, the shchita, yes, needs to be done lishma, l'shem baalim, from what? From the pasuk of ubesar zevach toda shlamav. But maybe the kabbalah, the halacha, and the zrika, by all other cases, don't have to be done l'shem baalav. Says the Gemara, shar shlamim minalan, ashkechan ayil nazir shar shlamim minalan, v'chitei manelaf my ayil nazir, mala ayil nazir shekein yeshima and dam and machirim. You can't just say, well, it's like ayil nazir, it's like everything. Ayil nazir has a chumrah in the fact that an ayil nazir doesn't just bring an ayil, he has to bring other karbanos as well, as opposed to when you bring a shlamim, you're only bringing one shlamim. Im kein nichtov shlamav. What does it say in the pasuk by the ayil of a nazir? It says, it's a ayil yaseh zevach shlamim. What should it have said? V'sa'ayil yaseh zevach shlamav. His specific, his individual shlamav. My shlamim l'rabos kol hashlamim. So now we've extended it that everything needs to be lishma, not just to nazir, but to all shlamim. What's the problem? How do I know that it applies to all korbanos? Ashechan shlamim shar kol kach minalan v'chitei manelaf mishlamim. You can learn from shlamim mala shlamim shekein tunin smicho nesachim utenufas chazei v'shok. Shlamim has a chumrah that every single shlamim needs smicha, where you lean on the korban, unisachim, where you pour something with it, wine or water, and you have to wave the breast and the right thigh. That doesn't apply to all other karbanos necessarily. Some do, some don't. But if it doesn't apply to all other karbanos, how can you learn from shlamim across the board? You need to have lishma by everything else. Says the Gemara, Ela Markra. What we say, this is what we say in Kakeli. Zos ha-Torah la'olah v'la mincha v'la chatas v'la hasham v'la miluim v'la hashlamim. Hekshinan akasav l'shlamim, ma shlamim bein shinoi kodesh bein shinoi baalim bein l'shma, af kol bein shinoi kodesh bein shinoi baalim bein l'shma. Baruch Hashem, we have this one pasuk that comes and says, we know from Nazir, it says shlamav, it says shlamim and not shlamav. We extend from Nazir to shlamim, and now when we compare all the other karbanos to shlamim, we can extend from shlamim to everything else. So again, now we've given a basis. Ubesar zevach toda shlamav teaches me that the zvicha, that the shchita needs to be done l'shem of the Baal. How do I know all the other three? I learn it from Nazir. Well, how can I learn it from Nazir? From Nazir, I learn to Shlamim. Once I learn from Nazir to Shlamim, I can learn to all of the other things as well. Just to conclude, a little bit of a different topic, but I just want to get to the top of the daf. But now the Gemara says, now you've established all 8 things. Again, the 4 by the Baal and the 4 for the actual Korban need to be done Lishma. But how do I know that if I shecht it Shalo Lishma, it's actually going to be kosher? It should be possible. We said there are certain cases, besides for the Chatas, and besides for the Pesach, and maybe besides for 1 or 2 other cases, the Toda, L'Shem Shlamim, besides for all those, we said that if you shecht a Korban Ola, L'Shem Shlamim, you didn't fulfill your Ola, but at the end of the day, you still continue to treat it as an Ola. How do we know that? Says the Gemara, Amar Kra, as we said yesterday, Motzeis Vasacha Dishmor Vasisa Kasher Nadarta. Hai Nidava Nederhu. Why does it call it Vasher Nadarta Nidava? Which should say Nederhu. Elim Kamash Nadarta Sita Ye Neder Vim Lavi He Nidava. Vitzrech Motzeis Vasacha Vitzrech Zos HaTorah. Di Kasar Rachmana Motzei Lo Yad Mai Kasar Rachmana Zos HaTorah. Vi Kasar Rachmana Zos HaTorah Havamina Lifsilu Kasar Rachmana Motzeis Vasacha. What the Gemara here is doing is basically recapping. The Gemara is saying we have 2 psukim here. The pasuk of Zos HaTorah l'shlamim, etc., 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 that gets it and compares everything to a shlamim, which is compared to a nazir, which we learn from the nazir that just like the zvicha needs to be done l'shma, so too all the other things need to be done l'shma. Motzeis Vasacha Tishmor teaches me that if in fact I do something not l'shma, then I don't ruin the entire thing, except in certain circumstances. Even though it won't be Ola for that specific korban, it'll still what? It'll still be able to be kosher to finish the avodah. But what we saw today that there are 8 different steps. Again, there's 4 avodos. Each one needs to be done l'sha. it needs to be done l'shma of the actual korban. When I bring a chatas, or when I bring an asham, or I bring a shlamim, each one of those 4 steps need to be done l'shma. L'shem, the zrika, the shchita, the kabbalah, the holacha, and the zrika all need to be done l'shem achatas, or l'shem shlamim, whatever it was set aside for. And not only those, we have 4 sources. We also have the sources that what? That not only does it have to be done l'shem the same korban, it needs to be done l'shem the same baal. We learn that from the shchita. We then extend it to the nazir, which is extended to the shlamim, which is extended to all of the other karbanos. Shkoyach, everyone.